Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Business Redefined. This is your weekly, most comprehensive look at the world of business, finance, and economics. We want to talk about banking and specifically the category of the economy which is often deemed to be high risk and most vulnerable, the micro, small, and medium-sized category. And how do banks ensure that they continue to play the critical intermediation role that they do to keep this economy pumping? And we're privileged to have the Director of Business Banking at Absa Bank, Elizabeth Wasunna. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Majority of us might not be familiar when we talk about business banking. What does it mean? What does it entail? What sits under your portfolio?
Thank you, Julian. And at Absa Bank, I serve as Business Banking Director, as you've rightly put it. And it takes care of SMEs and commercial business. This is business that just falls anything under corporate businesses as we know it, from startups all the way up to that point. These tend to be local businesses that are pertinent to our environment in Kenya.
Wonderful. If you look at the banking numbers we have seen recently, that is the HY numbers, credit risk still remains a pressure point in the sector. NPLs are ticking up and quite a sizable amount. How do you see it from your lens? How does Absa ensure that whereas it takes caution on that side, it is still playing its vital role in intermediation there?
Very pertinent question, Julian, because yes, we do note that NPLs are high, and it has been noted in the newspapers and in the media. It's about 16% at half year. And what are we saying? It's just a reflection of the challenges that we've seen in the environment. What do we look at it as far as Absa is concerned? It's an opportunity for us to do things a little different. We cannot continue pretending that there are no challenges in the environment. And so from a business perspective, we have said we want to walk the journey with the customers who are going through difficult opportunities like those under NPLs. It's an opportunity for us to re-engage and figure out, are we giving them the right products, for instance? Do they have the right information in terms of how do they deal with the difficulties that they have? Are we giving them the right products? Because these are things that we must be able to look at. So it's giving Absa an opportunity to reinvent itself around that piece. I say it's an opportunity for us also because we've found that customers who have engaged with us going through those difficult opportunities, we've been able to sit and say, is it an opportunity for a restructure? Yeah. So I'd encourage all the other organizations, financial organizations, not to look at it as, doom and gloom. It's an opportunity for us to re-engage because this population, the MSMEs, are the population that is going to, to change the course of our environment as far as the economy is concerned. We must engage with them and the solution for them as far as the problems is concerned.
But Elizabeth, even as you talk about solutioning for MSMEs, a number of them that we talk to will tell us, when I go to a bank, it is predominantly collateralized based financing. We don't have assets to back this. They will ask us for your books of accounts. We need some hand-holding to be able to get our books in order. How does Absa step into that?
Yeah. So we have tried to curate, or we have curated a proposition that speaks to a holistic view. So it's non-financial and financial. And to the point that you've mentioned, most SMEs would come to us or engage with us at the point at which they want to borrow initially. And we are saying, before you even borrow, take an opportunity to learn and relearn things that are important before you get to borrow. Because there are pillars that you need to have in place to ensure that you can borrow responsibly and sustainably. So at Absa, we have a proposition that speaks to training. We have partners that we have, picked in the environment that can enable us make sure that first and foremost, they understand how do you track your cash flows? Yeah. How do you ensure that you have the right people in your organization? How do you track their KPIs? How do you make sure that even you as an individual, because most SMEs are individual or maybe two people in a business, how do you make sure that you're mentally ready for the challenges that you see moving forward? How do you make sure that you can take your business to the digital platforms? There's so many things that we can be able to speak from a non-financial perspective. Then we make sure that we come into the financial perspective, teach you what are the risks we see in a business, and how do you mitigate those risks? And the truth of the matter is when the environment is stable, that conversation is had once, and then it can last for a period of time. Yes. But when you're in a tumultuous or a difficult environment or an environment that is being disrupted, it requires us to have constant conversations because the challenges that we saw during COVID are not necessarily the challenges that you see during a macro, environment, a difficult macro environment. So that engagement has to be constant. And at Absa, we're trying to say in our business club, we have a business club that sits within the SME space. we have those conversations consistently to ensure that businesses know the challenges, but also be able to mitigate those challenges in their businesses. So the two of them have to be a joint conversation for a business to thrive.
Elizabeth, one of the MSMEs that I spoke to mentioned something which I found to be very pertinent, and I guess this is something you face daily. They told me the problem with MSMEs in this country is that because of the liquidity squeeze we have in the market, we are invoice rich, but we are cash flow poor. And they're wondering whether banking sector players like yourselves do take cognizance of that and have solutions which speak to that peculiarity of this market. Yeah. What would you respond?
I would say that we are listening. Many years ago, before when you wanted to, for instance, take a facility, you had to find your way to the bank.
Yeah.
You had to find the bank somewhere, and most of the time you'd have to dress up and figure out who you're going to speak to. Today, we've mitigated that by being out in the market more. Customers can call us and we can reach them. So that conversation can be had early. Yeah. Number one. Number two, we've embraced the digitization journey, which speaks to the fact that some of these facilities that they're looking for can actually be got online. Yeah. We have the online platforms, the Timizas of this world, that can provide you with short-term, working capital opportunities at the place at which you work. So those are steps that we've made. Number three, it's important that we have relationships with these SMEs to say, what is your journey like? SMEs are not one size fits all.
That's true.
So each and every group of SMEs needs to have that information on what we're looking at in terms of evaluating their business. Number four, we've actually looked at it and embraced the conversations around the risk-based pricing to say it's not one price that fits all. Those who are operating their businesses, within the parameters, meeting the conditions that we have jointly agreed on, are getting better pricing. So there's progress, Julian, and to say that, we're really looking to see how much more we can provide them as we walk the journey together.
3 years ago, Business Redefined ran a series with Absa Bank on women in enterprise, and the resonance in the market was huge. Maybe let's get a status update. Currently, how are you building on that momentum?
Wow, 3 years ago and where we are today.
The market has changed significantly.
It has changed significantly, but one thing remains true. Our investment in this conversation of women in business has been fruitful. And I think we've seen the impact that it has had to change their lives and really empower the women that we've engaged with. When we started this proposition of women in business, we said we wanted to reach 1 million women over a 5-year period and provide them with a fund that speaks to about 10 billion shillings. Today, as we sit, we have surpassed the number of women that we have empowered, well over 1 million. And that's at the point at which we were being challenged. We were thinking, wow, if we can get to 100,000, that would be good. But we've reached 1 million women plus. Number two, we've also engaged with a lot of partners that have allowed us to do things differently. So, for instance, the conversation around lending to the women. We've engaged with partners like IFC, Africa Guarantee Fund, who have supported us with risk share agreements, guarantees, to allow us to lend more to the women, and therefore also provided technical assistance to support the women in the different industries that they are in. We have also been able to engage them at the point at where they are, not necessarily, waiting for them to come to the bank. So we are more out there and possibly inside. And we continue to find partners across across the world, for that matter. Another key partner that we've engaged with that have changed the way that we've talked to women is ITC She Trades, that allows women to be more ambitious, to travel the world, so to speak. And it is around the trade business. With the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement that we have signed as a country, we need to be able to enable businesses to move around. And we're supporting that through engagements with partners like ITC She Trades. So it's to say that, where we thought it was going to be difficult, we have found partners that have allowed us to reach more women. And we continue on that journey because the impact it is having goes over and beyond what we, just a numbers perspective. It's the impact on families, an impact on the youth. It's an impact across board. It's savings, education, a lot. And I think it's the right thing to do.
Maybe let's take a step back on what you've said, and you've mentioned a couple of partners, including the guarantee schemes. What do you see as the role of de-risking vehicles, if I could call them, in supporting, especially lending to the segment of micro, small, and medium-sized businesses? Because many times, of course, we're told that banking sector players might not have too patient capital to go to that side of the market.
It's right to say that traditionally, some of these sectors that we're going to have always been looked at as the riskier sectors. But with the risk shares that we partner with, the organizations that come in, they also come with a lot of data.
Yeah.
Data that we have also started to pick up, and collect and understand. And so with the partnership that speaks to, for instance, 50% risk share guarantee for SMEs, allows us to then be more patient. It allows us to go into sectors that perhaps we have a view over, but have never lent to, so it makes us more brave. And for women, for instance, data is now telling us different. It's telling us that really they save well, they repay well, and therefore having a risk share allows us to be more bold. As we collect data as an organization, we're then able to say, you know what, we can actually lend unsecured. And the proposition that we have for women, for instance, at Absa, it's called the Absa She proposition. She stands for See Her Empowered, allows us to do unsecured facilities up to about 6.5 million Kenyan shillings, which is a first. It has been a first for a very long time. And therefore allows us to really extend ourselves in a different way. Are we able to do more? Absolutely. And we're looking for every day. There's a team in the bank that looks for what else can we do based on the data, because we have to be able to base it on something that speaks to a positive journey that we're on with women in business.
Elizabeth, one of the comments that I received from our regular viewer was that many times we talk about MSMEs and we lump them together with the gig economy. And there's a view that we should unbundle this too, because the gig economy, unpredictable incomes, not your traditional banking client. Whereas some of us are used to walking into a banking hall. Those guys don't even know what a banking hall looks like. How is Absa catering to the needs of those playing in the gig economy?
I think the point that we've mentioned in the previous question around data.
Yeah.
Data is everything, because data gives us a view of what we're dealing with. It looks unstructured maybe to others because we have never engaged with them in the way they are today. And as they continue to morph, as they continue to congregate together, because initially, the gig economy was one, separate, different entities. Today, they're coming together in terms of associations. We're having conversations with them together to understand this is what they look like today, but this is what they predict to look like moving forward. And as we collect data, we're able to predict in a more focused manner. So when we engage with them, we say, for instance, we do understand you do 2 or 3 gigs in a year. So what does that mean? Yeah. How do you engage with entities? How are you contracting with them? How does your payment come through? You might be in country, you might be out country. How do we support you in a more structured manner, in a more aligned to what your business is? Because we need to follow the cash flows.
Yeah.
So we're saying that, as we engage, we're becoming better at being able to provide them with facilities. It's not one size fits all. So my ask is, let's engage and figure out what is this that needs to be true for you to be able to engage with us as a bank and to support you move your business to the next level.
So they're very much bankable.
They are very bankable, and we've engaged with them because remember, we also use them as an organization. So surely whom we use as a business, we can't say we can't support you. They're a growing entity, and we've seen the power of what they do.
Okay. Payments. A number of businesses will tell you that payment solutions are friction laden. They're not easy to navigate. Curious as to what Absa sees as the payments landscape, and what are some of the innovations you're coming up with to be able to smoothen out the process of payments, especially for MSMEs.
Yeah. Payments are the core of SMEs. And the truth is, we're on a journey of making sure that we can provide them with more efficient, cost-effective, convenient way of being able to make payments. Payments are the core of businesses, especially for SMEs, because remember, they sit in Gikomba, Nakuru, Kakamega, in the places that they are. So for them to be able to receive payments and also to be able to make payments is really, really critical. At Absa Bank, it's an opportunity for us to, for instance, embrace the digital platforms, engage partnerships with organizations that already have platforms, the fintechs of this world, see how you can partner with them to provide solutions to our customers. But even in that payments, the other friction point is really around, first of all, the cost that I mentioned, but also the reconciliation piece, because, as SMEs sit and engage with their customers, this reconciliation piece has to be, efficient and effective. So at Absa Bank, we've provided payment platforms that also help them with reconciliation. We've partnered with fintechs that also allows us to be able to support, a wider group of SMEs. We've also partnered with some of the the payment platforms that allows us them to also, provide this opportunity across board, but also not just provide the payment, but also look and say, how do we provide the financing behind it, embed financing in it? Because as you're making payments, sometimes you lack.
Yeah.
They fall short. How can you quickly activate, for instance, a card limit that you have? How do you quickly activate a pre-approved facility that you already have? How do you quickly activate, a request, because it could be over and above what you have? And so then support the payment conversation. So those things are happening in Absa. And the truth is, have we done enough? Not necessarily. I think that we're still on a journey. There's a whole department, again, that sits, eats, dreams, thinks, all about how do we make payments more efficiently. Because the other challenge is, as we think about it from a Kenyan perspective, remember there's a regional perspective, there's also a Africa perspective, and there's a global perspective. How do you make sure that our customers in all these categories are well supported?
And that last point was actually my follow-on question, because a number of these businesses we talk about now are reaching across Pan-African and regional value chains. And there comes in the challenge of cross-payments, cross-border payments, and the fact that they're in multiple currencies. What are you doing around that?
First and foremost, Absa should be the right partner, because
your footprint.
We have footprints, yes, footprints. So, the beauty of being in an organization that has footprint in various areas is that we have information in those various jurisdictions, and we can be able to support customers who are going across the region. Support them by being able to introduce them even to businesses that they're looking to visit in those regions. Provide them with information around legislation, governance, taxes, what are the rules of engagement in those areas. So, we've started that journey and under the Business Club, which we've had for many years, but really enhanced to speak to the conversation around the African continent is important, and we're happy to support our customers in that space. Having said that, also, we've embraced platforms that speak to allowing us to be able to, make the payments easier, faster, better across the region. So engage with us, because I think it's an opportunity for our customers to understand what are the rules of engagement, and we are here to support them in that journey across.
Maybe, Elizabeth, just walk us through your raft of solutions, whether it is overdrafts, term loans, whatever spectrum looks like, because I'm imagining someone would be curious to understand where in that spectrum would I ideally fit?
So, Jenny, the question is, what is the need of the customer? Because, as I've mentioned, there's no two customers, even in the same industry, that may necessarily use the same product. But the bank has a wide array of products. So when he talks about working capital, we have the overdrafts. And there's a way you use overdrafts that is right and proper. There's also a way that you can use short-term loans. There's a way you can use LPO financing, There's a way you can use, trade facilities. There's a way you can use what we always term as loans. And even in that loans, there are mortgage loans, there's unsecured loans, there's secured loans, there's asset finance loans. All these things speak to being able to support a customer from a financial perspective. The question is, have you engaged with your banker, your relationship manager, to know which is the right one for you? Because all these facilities come with costs. I say this because, some customers come in and say, I want a facility similar to the one that you've given so-and-so, because it's a me too. This me too, because that one has even me, I want that one. And it might not be the right one. So I want to buy a car, but I take an unsecured facility, or I take overdraft. These facilities they're not correctly placed. So it's the encouragement, especially to SMEs, is not to copy and paste. Have that conversation that allows the bankers to provide you with the right product for the need that you have. It will allow you to manage your costs, and therefore allow you to be able to run your businesses in an efficient manner.
Elizabeth, we've got about 7 or so million MSMEs by the data that we have. And if you look at studies, including the ones done, the FinAccess survey, access to formal finance, like extended by Absa, still remains the biggest constraint for these businesses. Where do you think the challenge is, and how do we mainstream that vast informal segment? Because a bulk of them, if you look at the surveys done, they will tell you we still go to friends and family for plugging in our capital needs. We'd rather use alternative sources of funding, which come at a very steep price, not to mention names, but yes.
Interesting. There are very many ways of being able to support, and the truth is, when you look at it 10 years ago, the things that we used to do as far as banking is concerned, especially to this important segment that really provides employment, It provides a lot of opportunities for our growth in the environment. We've become more innovative. When you speak about how do we engage with them, is important. How do you provide them with that umbrella that speaks to good times and bad times? Our environment has been very, challenged.
Yeah.
So a lot of organizations, and a lot of businesses normally base their response on perhaps what they've seen their neighbor going through, and still say, don't borrow from that bank because, they come and, collect their collateral, or they will give you stress. The truth of the matter is, if you don't engage one-on-one with these banks, relationship management, and especially in a bank like Absa, where we've trained our people on the ground across the 85 branches we have to engage with you at the level where we see you as an individual, to allow you to be able to put the right pillars for your business in place. No two businesses, like I've said, are alike.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why you should say, I can't access this. Number two, we have changed the way we look at things. We are providing unsecured facilities. We're providing secured facilities. We're providing facilities on a digital platform. We're doing things different. But if you think about, perhaps your father or your grandfather telling you, don't borrow from a bank because my experience was different, you'll have lost out on an opportunity really to get financing. The truth is, your family will provide you capital to a certain level. They will provide you probably with terms and conditions that are not necessarily supported by your business. Yeah. They are not necessarily as patient as we'd want to imagine they could be, because when they need their money, they need their money. And we need these businesses to really have structured lending. Yeah. And we're saying the lending we have is also attuned to what we're going through in the environment. So if you come to the bank and say, I want an overdraft facility, and we see that your need is actually an asset finance, we will push it to the right direction. Yes. We'll give you a facility that will allow you to take it over a period of time, for instance, 5 years, because that's what asset finance can provide you, maybe with 100% financing, as opposed to an overdraft facility, which would then mean that your lending is locked up to the limit that you have asked for it. It needs to fluctuate as an overdraft facility. So I say this going into a little detail because every facility has its use and its costs. And there's the importance of customers coming and saying, I need to do A, B, C, D. So it shouldn't be a conversation where I come and say, I want a loan. I said, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. And together we can then craft financing that supports the program that you put in place, because there are different products that can be able to support you. So the more you talk with your customers, the bank, the relationship managers, the better it is for us. Yeah. The better it is for us to be able to solution you. Yeah.
You've talked a lot about what you're doing on the digital side from a distribution standpoint. I'm very curious, how is Timiza doing, by the way?
Timiza is doing very well. Timiza is doing well because we have been able to collect data over the last 5 years. Like I said, data is king. Yeah. It allows us to then target the right audience with the right amounts and the right support. And even that Timiza conversation, as we collect the data, we're able to then, pass on information that is pertinent to the different sectors that we are supporting. So for instance, from the women perspective, when we opened up Timiza, a lot of women went and borrowed from there. We were able to pull them together, collect them together and have conversations to say, as you borrow, this is what we see as some of the challenges, the obstacles along the way. And we engage them in forums throughout the year to allow them to be more efficient and effective. The same for the youth. We've been able to have ready-to-work programs. We've been able to have conversations around what are the things, the challenges we see coming through and what you need to do differently. So from a Timiza perspective, we've become actually more effective in being able to engage with the industries that we're looking at. Today, we're also looking at the dairy industry, because that's another area that we believe has an opportunity for us to engage Timiza in. So digitization is the way to go, because at the end of the day, we will never be brick and mortar everywhere that a Timiza platform can perhaps be able to reach. So happy to say that Timiza is still there and continues to engage with the population.
Elizabeth, we're out of time. Give us your parting shot.
My parting shot, Julian, is to say that SMEs must be bold. They must be brave. They must continue to be passionate and also ready. Ready speaks to the fact that they continue to, learn. There's a lot of learning. And because, you've been in business for a period of time doesn't mean that there's not opportunity to learn. When we speak about digitization, when we speak about the different products, opportunities that are out there, it requires us to continue to learn and relearn to the things that I always say. But for me, to them, is to say we are here as a business, as Absa, across the 85 branches plus, and we continue to add them more where necessary. Continue to engage with us, because our key point is to ensure that you're ready to run your business. We're here to support you to move to the next level. But also, when you're going through difficulties, do not feel afraid. Let's have that conversation to ensure that you can run your business beyond you.
Elizabeth Wasunna, Director Business Banking at Absa Bank. The parting shot is there is no one size fits all for the client. And the client is obligated to come and express their need, because what you think you need is not necessarily what the bank will actually structure for you to optimize your performance and outcomes in the market. We shall keep on highlighting these issues for the best interest of the business environment, so keep in touch with Business Redefined.